What is a model in science? Well, a model is something that represents an object, system, or process. It's not that person that walks down the runway showing off the latest in fashion. Sorry, guys. Using models in science is essential. Models allow scientists to visualize objects and understand systems that are difficult to study, either because they are very small, or because they are very large, or because they are very complex. We're talking about things like the atom, like the solar system, like the earth, maybe a car, a bridge, the life cycle of the butterfly, ocean currents, chemical reactions, the human body systems, plant cells, organelles, wind belts, volcanoes, the water cycle, food webs. There are a lot of things that we use models for in science. Models may change over time. Let's take a look at models of our solar system. We're going to start with two Greek philosophers from a very long time ago. Their names were Ptolemy and Aristotle. Now, what they did, they looked up at the night sky and they noticed how the stars moved across the sky every night, and they could see different planets in the sky and how they rotated and moved past the earth. And they also noticed that the sun seemed to come up in the same place every day and then set in the same place every day. And to them, it appeared like everything in the universe was revolving around the earth. It was from their perspective. They're standing still on earth. It looks like everything is moving past them. So they came up with the idea of the geocentric model for the universe. This is where Earth is the center of the universe. It wasn't until the invention of the telescope that Galileo and Copernicus came along, looked up through the telescope at the night sky and went, something doesn't seem right. Because when I look at that star, well, it's in pretty much the same place every night. And when I look at that planet, well, it seems to be pretty much in the same place during certain times of the year. And that star seems to be in the same place. And wait a minute, maybe Earth isn't the center of the universe. And they came up with the heliocentric model of the solar system, in which the sun is the center of the universe. The current model of our solar system is based on the heliocentric model. We can make the model simple or more complex, depending on what we want to see. Even models of the atom have changed over time. In 1803, Dalton proposed the solid ball model of the atom, which is essentially nothing except for a solid ball, kind of like you'd see on a pool table. In 1904, J.J. Thomson comes along and proposes the plum pudding model of the atom, where you have this positively charged goo, and inside this positively charged goo, well, there are these negative particles just sort of floating around inside of it. In 1911, Ernest Rutherford proposed the planetary model of the atom. We can see this is getting more complex now, with the nucleus in the center that contains the protons and the neutrons, and then we have the electrons that are out here circling that nucleus. In 1913, Bohr proposed the orbital or Bohr model of the atom. And this is the one you're most likely to see in your classrooms because it's, well, easy for your teachers to teach from. Anyway, the Bohr model of the atom shows us the nucleus in the center along with its protons and neutrons, and then orbiting that nucleus in these ring-like paths called orbitals are the electrons. Now, the most recent model of the atom is the electron cloud model, and it came along in 1926. It's considered the most accurate model of the atom. And we can see we've got in the center here, we still have the nucleus with its neutrons and with its protons. But then the outer part of it is more of an electron cloud. The electrons aren't necessarily in orbits, but they're just sort of randomly circling the nucleus with more electrons closer to the nucleus. And then as you get further away, there's fewer and fewer electrons to be found. Picture it this way. You're running through the woods and you get swarmed by a bunch of mosquitoes. Now, those mosquitoes are going to spend the majority of their time, well, close to you because you're their food and that's what they want. So as you move away from your body, you're less likely to find more mosquitoes. The majority of them are going to be close into your body. Okay? A classic example of modeling is the DNA strand. Now, we can't see DNA with the naked eye, so we come up with models so that we can actually visualize what DNA looks like. Now, the model can be very simplistic or it can be more complex. Like in this particular example, the model of the DNA is actually showing the individual molecules that are making up the different parts of the DNA strand. And we can see it in 3 dimensions, so we can see how the DNA helix looks from all 3 sides. Another classic example of modeling is water and its states of matter. So over here on the left, we can see our water molecule. This is a very simplistic model that we're looking at. It shows us 1 oxygen atom and the fact that it's attached to 2 hydrogen atoms. Now we can also model the states of matter of water. And the first state of matter, of course, is solid, which we know as ice. The molecules are locked in position, and all they do is sit there and vibrate in place. The next state of matter that we're going to look at is the liquid form. Now, in the liquid form, the molecules of water are still attracted to one another, but they easily slide past each other, and that is what gives water its fluid properties when it's in its liquid state. And then we have the gaseous state of water, where the molecules really aren't attracted to each other at all, and they're flitting around like a bunch of little flies. Now we're going to look at modeling a food web in a forest ecosystem. So our rabbit is going to eat our primary producers, which are the grass and the flowers. The hummingbird feeds only on the nectar of the flowers, along with the butterfly, who also only feeds on the nectar of the flowers. The rat will eat both the butterfly and the grass. Then the snake eats the rat. And the hawk will eat the snake, the rat, the rabbit, and the hummingbird. And the coyote will eat the snake, the hawk, the rabbit, and the rat. Scientists will make assumptions when using models like these to make things easier to understand. The biggest assumption that we make in this food web is that there is nothing else interacting with the flora and fauna in this system. So essentially, we're ignoring the rest of the forest. Because of this assumption, we can infer that if the flowers were to die, then so would the butterfly, and so would the hummingbird. Now, the animals that feed off of these still have other sources of food, so it's not going to affect them. So let me ask you a quick question. What do you think is going to happen if our rat were to die off? Who do you think that's going to affect? Well, if you guessed the snake here, you guessed correctly. If the rat dies, then our snake is going to die off. And that's because the rat is his only source of food. It's not going to affect the hawk or the coyote because they have other sources of food. It's not just scientists that use models. Other professions use models as well, like architects, historians, shipbuilders, car designers, and many, many more.